Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Joe McIntosh, and I will be the moderator for this NUSU electoral debate for the upcoming 2022-2023 academic year. As we begin this debate, I would like to acknowledge that we are in the territory of the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850, and the land on which we gather is the Nipissing First Nation traditional territory and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. Tonight, we are hosting a debate for the candidates who are running for the executive positions of VP Finance and Administration and VP Student Life. I'd like to introduce the candidates running for the position of VP Finance and Administration. They are Brendan Brown and Montana Taylor. Also, the candidates for VP Student Life are Kaya Hefferon and Preston English. This debate will consist of the candidates saying their piece on why they are running, and they will be answering questions from both the Elections Committee and later from those who have sent questions in. The format for this debate will be as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. This can include a part of their platform, why they chose to run, and what they feel they can do for the students in the position. Each candidate will answer one position-specific question created by the election committee with 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Candidates will also have a chance to also answer the same question. Each candidate will answer one general question chosen at random from a hat with 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Again, candidates will have a chance to also answer the same question. Each candidate will answer questions sent in by students, and they will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to say their closing remarks. For each new section, the order who will answer first will alternate. For example, for section 1, candidate A will speak first, followed by candidate B. For section 2, candidate B will answer the first question, then candidate A will have a chance to answer the same question. This alternation will continue for the duration of the debate. In terms of keeping track of time, Jill Alick, our office administrator, will be holding colored paper to signify how much time is left. Yellow paper will mean that there is 30 seconds left, and red paper will signal that time is up. Candidates may be the only people to see this should Zoom not show Jill's camera this webinar. For questions coming in from the live stream, you can send them to us via your student email to info@nusu.com. Now that we have outlined this debate will take place, I will now invite Brendan Brown to come up and begin opening remarks.
Awesome, thank you, Joe. So for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Brendan, and I'm a third-year sociology student here at Nipissing. Some of my interests, as outlined in my platform, are cooking, sports, video games, and annoying my pets. Now, for this opening remark, I'm going to put my heart on my sleeve a little bit. NUSU has helped me out a lot for the past few years. Because of COVID, I have experienced some financial hardships, and so has my family that we weren't expecting, some job loss, things like that. And I have turned to NUSU for help. I've turned to NUSU for the food bank, and I've turned to NUSU for financial help. Every single time that I have done something like that, NUSU has 100% been there for me, and there at no point was any shame, anything regrettable involved. I 100% have enjoyed every single experience that I've had with NUSU, and that is part of the reason why I want to give back. So throughout my high school career, I always considered getting involved with student council and never ultimately did to the capacity that I wanted to. I figured that it's one of those scenarios where you always think there's going to be another opportunity, and I never quite jumped on it. So when I came to Nipissing, my goal was to get involved and to do what I could to give back. Now, my first year, I wanted to get a grasp of things, work on my school, my academics, and make sure that I focused on that first, because that's my #1 priority. And then once I had that under wraps, then I would come in and do what I could to help out and to give back to other students. Now, obviously, lockdowns got in the way of that, and things didn't go the way that I wanted them to. Now, as soon as I saw posts for the by-election, I knew that this was my opportunity to finally do what I've always wanted to do and get involved and to do my part. So I think all of that being said, I am uniquely motivated to want to give back to students and to want to help everybody, especially anyone who may be in positions where, I was in, of course, and to be able to do so as effectively as possible while also minimizing any sort of shame or stigma involved in that. I think that looking at everybody here, reading all of you guys' platforms, that you guys are all going to do an amazing job. And I think that no matter what, NUSU is in really good hands.
Thank you, Brendan. Kaya, you have the floor.
Great. Hi, guys. So my name is Kaya, and I'm running for the VP role of Student Life. And I'm super excited to be here to just answer some questions that you guys may have and share some of my ideas with you. So I could talk about why I feel I'm qualified for this role and why I think I would do a good job, but I honestly and truly believe that both Preston and I would do a really good job in this role. I think that we're both equally as passionate, and that's super exciting because Preston's making me work really hard to get this role. But it's fun. I love the competition. It's super exciting. I think we have some great ideas, but ultimately it just comes down to our ideas that is going to set us apart and the things that we can bring to the table. So for my platform, I was just trying to think back to what it was like being in first year and come up with some ideas of things I wanted to include. And I remember being super excited to just go out and make new friends and participate in different events. And I think I did a good job for that. But at the same time, I did believe that I would have a second and third and fourth year to continue with these social events. And we all really got robbed of these years. And I can only imagine how hard it was for first and second years coming to school. And they didn't even have like a full room of roommates coming in like our residents, and they missed out on frosh. They had to do it online, and we did the best that we could doing it online, but it's you can't compare the two, being in person and online. So and just even in-person classes, like that's how you meet people and share notes and stuff. So my main goal for my platform is just to make up for all the lost time that we had. That's my little slogan. And I want to do the best that I can to create some fun events that everyone can look forward to. If you guys didn't get a chance to read my platform yet, I'll talk about it later. It's all good. Thank you.
Thank you. Montana, you are up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Montana Taylor. I am a first-year student in the criminology program, and I'm also a mature transfer student, so that means I graduated college from Campion College and got my diploma in community and justice services. I am actually rerunning for my position of VP Finance and Administration. I was elected in the 2021-2022 by-elections, and I feel that I didn't get really enough time to do everything that I wanted to do, and I wanted to make more of a difference. Some of my qualifications is when I was at Cambrian, I was a part of many different initiatives such as Bell Let's Talk Day. I was on the planning committee for that, and as well as a featured panelist speaker. Then we also did something called Access Equals Loves, where it brought awareness to students with accessibility accommodations. And again, I was on the planning committee, and so different things like that just made me like, okay, I like planning events and stuff, and I want to be where I can help support my other executives in planning events, find ways to come up with money for it and stuff like that. This year, we've noticed an exponential increase in our student food bank. And so just trying to find some more sponsorship opportunities for that. And just finding ways that we can talk to alumni and different sponsors in our community to really help our food bank, because that is something our students really use in different events such as like night owls, sexy bingo, stuff like that. Helping my other executives plan that as well. And then continuing to be an advocate for students in meetings where I'm a representative for the university and ensuring that the student voice is heard and amplified. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, Preston.
Perfect. I just want to say thank you everyone for coming out today. I really appreciate anyone who shows up. My name is Preston English. I am a third-year criminology student here at Nipissing, and I'm running for VP Student Life because just like many of you that I've talked to, I feel underrepresented. I want to flip the script on this VP Student Life position. When you go online, you see baseline things like Frosh Week, you see orientation, you see the food bank, you see maintaining clubs as minimums that the VP Student Life has to run. I want to change that so the events that I'm going to talk about later become the new minimum. I want to add more to the position because I'm so passionate about student life and making sure every group is included at the macro and the micro level. Macro in terms of running my events that I'll get into later, and micro where I want every student, every single student, every body to be represented. And I think I have proved this over my last couple weeks. I have personally reached out to almost 1,000 students, individually messaged them asking for their questions and any concerns they may have. And I have heard that many first-year students are lost, don't know how to get involved. Many second-year students are frustrated that they missed their first year and they don't know how to get involved now. Many third-year and upper-year students have almost completely given up hope because COVID has impacted them so much where they just want to get their degree over with. And that fills my heart with sorrow because university is where you go to experience the best moments of your life. You could meet your significant other, you meet your best friends, you meet the people you're going to know forever. When you have your grandkids say, Grandma, Grandpa, tell me a story from when you were younger. A lot of the time, you're gonna tell them from when you were in university. And I believe many students who I've contacted aren't getting that same experience right now. So as you're gonna see through my qualifications that I've had over the past few years working at Nipissing, as well as my events that I plan to run, I really wanna make a change in this school because I'm not running for myself, the payment, or it looking good on a resume. I'm running it for the students because I wanna represent everybody, not just the macro. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the questions for job-specific roles. So questions will be asked for your role specifically from the election committee, chosen at random from a pool of questions designated for each position. One question is asked per job role per candidate, and a question will be chosen randomly out of a hat. The other candidate can choose to also answer the question or pass. We will start with Kaya and the VP Student Life. So due to COVID-19, last year's orientation was a mix of online and in-person. How will you ensure long-distance students are still thought of when it comes to orientation and other activities throughout the year?
Can you repeat the question?
For sure.
Thank
So
you.
due to COVID-19, last year's orientation was a mix of online and in-person. How will you ensure long-distance students are still thought of when it comes to orientation and other activities throughout the year?
Well, that's a hard one because you obviously don't get the same experience if you're not participating in person. And that's a lot of what we had to experience in these past 2 years, a lot of online participating and just things like that. So it is very unfortunate, but if things do continue to be online and there are students that aren't able to come in person to participate in different activities, then we will have to look into turning things online, like how we did our online frosh and all that stuff. I think that if we are able to spread the word about different events that we hold, hopefully that will create some interest in joining, but I do recognize that it's really hard to stay interested and wanting to participate in school when you're not actually there to experience it. And I think that's a lot of how we're all feeling right now, is we're feeling kind of disconnected from everyone and isolated. So that would definitely be something really good to focus on if it is super unfortunate and we're not able to come back into person.
Thank you. Preston, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with Kaya. I believe it's really unprecedented and it's really unfortunate if we do have to go online again. But I believe in order to improve what we've done the last few years, because again, many people I've spoken to don't like online. They don't like online events. A lot of events don't have as big of a body represented at the time. So I believe we need to go micro again. I believe we need to reach out to specific departments. For example, if you want to run a certain event, contact the crim department and the executives over there, contact the psych executives, contact every single individual body and make sure everyone is properly being represented in the school. Contact every student event like the Equity Center, the Indigenous Initiative, every office to be sure that absolutely every student is being accommodated for. Because I find a lot of student events, it might be very large scale. So someone who is a little bit anxious to join events, which is a lot of people, they might not want to just hop into an event. So maybe if you can get something sorted out beforehand, like a little orientation to speak, where these students will identify with other people and then have maybe pre-made friends before main events. I just believe, because I know I suffer from anxiety sometimes, everyone does. I believe the best way to be able to plan for an online situation if it occurs is to make our students comfortable and relaxed in this environment setting, because most people I've talked to absolutely hate online. And a lot of people's grades are going down with online courses. So I think being comfortable, maybe having some sort of event beforehand, the actual main event would be absolutely necessary and very efficient. And I think it would work well. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Montana, and it's a VP Finance and Administration specific question. In the role of VP Finance, you will have to disapprove of certain spending. How do you plan to be fair, yet firm and consistent with your co-workers if a conflict arises?
Thank you for the question, Joe. So this is actually something that's kind of happened already in the role. You just kind of have to look and see at the budget of what's going to be most important, and you have to think of the students most importantly. Is this something that the students are going to be well received with, and is it something that's going to benefit the students? If it's something that is just frivolous spending, sometimes you just have to deny it and be firm, but also like compassionate with your coworkers and be like, okay, this is something that might not be able to work. Are we able to find either A, a reduced price about this, or B, are we able to find like a different event to where we can maybe incorporate this into and do it that way? But you can't just be all mean to them, like, no, sorry, this is not going to happen. It's my way, not your way. You have to be, it's kind of a two-way street, and you have to be compassionate and firm and see what's going to be best for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Brendan, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I completely agree with Montana. I think that was very well said. I think ultimately it's really important that we build rapport with each other. So whoever ends up in executive roles has a good relationship with each other. And during the process of building the budget, it's important to have open communication and to make sure that everybody knows exactly where we sit. We don't want to have to wait until somebody proposes something to have them get shut down, because I think everybody here and everybody who is already at NUSU, anybody going in for director or senator positions, they are all very passionate. Everybody has things that they want to do, and sometimes they just need a little bit of tweaking. So instead of necessarily shooting things down, it could be a good idea to sit down with any involved parties, anybody who could help make any adjustments, and see if there's any troubleshooting that you can do ahead of time to adjust it to see if it is possible. You're not always going to be able to please everybody. And I think it's especially true in this position. You have to make sure that you sift through any proposed events or programs and make sure that ultimately throughout the entire year, we're just being as efficient as humanly possible with the resources that we have. We want to do as much as we can for students. And I think that that goes for everybody here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be for the VP Student Life role, and Preston, this is for you. So during the planning and implementation of Orientation Week, the VP Student Life must lead a group of 400 plus student volunteers, and participants should all week return primarily to in-person attendance. What kinds of leadership skills and experience do you have that would aid you in organizing a team of leaders in a large group of students?
So to start, I work in the student recruitment office as a student recruitment leader. Ironically, we are also in charge of orientation as well as Frosh Week. During this job, you have to be able to work as a team with members in your office to make sure prospective students are getting the great treatment that they need. So you need to also be able to allocate resources, so work with various departments in the school. And I believe if I can properly work with other departments that I already have pre-made connections with, I can work to make sure every aspect is covered for something like orientation. As opposed directly to a more larger body. When I was in high school, I locally went to Chippewa Secondary School. I was my school's valedictorian as voted by our peers who represented our student body. And as such, I was actually in charge of running major student events. One student event in particular was called Raider Day. It was an event where all grade sixes from across North Bay came into our school, and we gave them a life of what goes on. We gave them lunch, we had many academic things, we had many things in the gym, and you really had to be able to lead a team. And I was actually solely in charge of that event, and I had to deal with the other student ambassadors on the lower scale and then work with the larger students on a more broader scale. On a larger note, I am also on the side as well as the recruitment job. I am a manager at a clothing store in the mall where you also have to work as a group to allocate resources and work as a team. I believe my whole entire life has been an assortment of working as a team in large and small scale environments. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Kaya, would you like to answer the question?
Of course, I would love to. So for me, I've had lots of experience with organizing and running large fundraisers for different nonprofit organizations. And from there, I got to learn how to be in charge of a lot of different things that would all go into the planning aspect and when everyone comes and being able to work with a variety of different people. And I think that those skills that I learned from doing that would definitely apply to this job. I think for me, I really believe in feedback and being able to properly communicate with people that you're working with. And I just want everything to be a super positive atmosphere. And so if I think if I am able to talk to people and people feel comfortable coming to everyone with different ideas, I think that everything will run super smoothly. I think if I stay super organized and have just a list of everything that has to get done and being able to properly delegate different tasks to different people, I think that everything will be super successful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And our last job specific question is for the VP Finance and Administration, and it's for Brendan. So as VP Finance and Administration, you often serve in a supportive role to the president. How do you plan on creating a positive working relationship with the president while ensuring effective communication in order to properly represent the student body?
Thanks, Joe. Well, like I mentioned with my last answer, I do think it all comes down to building rapport. So we are, no matter who's in NUSU, no matter who gets elected, they're going to be a core group of executives and representatives of students. And it's important that everybody does what they can to communicate and to make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, it's especially true for VP Finance and Administration as well as the president, because the president has to, of course, oversee everything. You have to supervise all departments. And it's very difficult to do that if you aren't fully aware of the budget, or you don't have all of the tools that you need to be able to make decisions and help supervise different groups. So I think that it's important to, as VP Finance and Administration, to work with the president and basically see where we need to improve and where we need to zero in with the budget, as well as make sure that we've got clear communication about our plans with that budget and those resources and how we can go to get more, especially with the president's role with the community and with meeting representatives of our community. I think it's really important to have a good relationship because of the sponsorship responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. Montana, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, most definitely. So I think using my prior knowledge of the role specifically, Joe, you did an amazing job of making sure that open door communication was there. I would know I was very nervous coming into the role and not knowing anything, and you were there to kind of guide me. And so kind of knowing and understanding that you're not always going to agree on everything, but you still have to be cordial with them, and creating that communication is just knowing that you can still rely on that person even though you may not always agree. And so just using that knowledge, and then like what Brendan was saying, is like building that rapport with the individual and all the other individuals as well, using that and just making sure that you can go and rely on them and they can rely on you. It's not just, oh, let me come to you for a million questions, but you can also come and ask me things. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the general questions, and by order, each candidate will be asked a question that is picked out randomly from a hat. The remaining candidates have the choice to answer this question, however, they do not have to. The moderator, myself, will ask each candidate in order if they would like to answer the question so everyone will have a chance. So Montana, you are up first. When speaking to potential students at fall and spring open houses, how will you entice students to choose Nipissing and take an active part in NUSU?
Thank you for the question. I think something that really gets students is telling them about your personal experience. And that's really what engages them to come here. You can tell them, oh, all these stats and all that, but they're really going to understand your story best because you're a student. And so, unfortunately, I have had the displeasure of coming in and being in a COVID year, and everything has been all online. So, you haven't really gotten the chance to engage with students. But something that you can still talk about is you can still build that relationship with people, even though you're distance or online and stuff like that, because you can still message people, create those group chats, and still find ways to help rely on each other. With the aspect of NUSU has been such a great staple of like, not keeping me sane, but keeping me sane. It's why I wake up in the morning. It gets me excited to go and help students the best way I can. And knowing that there's so many services that we help students with, such as like the food bank, it just makes me so happy because I know that students can come and it's a way for them to study and learn and just build that environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Preston, would you like to answer the question?
Absolutely. In terms of open house, that is actually an event I will be running next week with Kyle Weatherhall. I believe my experience in the Student Recruitment Center has given me amazing skills that would transfer over to VP Student Life directly. Personally, myself, like I mentioned earlier, I've taken the responsibility on my own fruition to message hundreds of people asking their own concerns, and I've gotten many problems back, and I've given my advice to many students. Going back to orientation specifically, open house specifically, I know when I'm dealing with new students and prospective students, building off exactly what Montana said, that was a great point. Your own experience is necessary because students don't have that to build off of. They're coming in on a blank slate. They don't know what to expect. And I believe if you can have a positive attitude and have a strong leader, like I do believe I am, I believe that will rub students off the right way. I believe everyone should be accounted for in something like this, and something like orientation or orientation / open house. When I'm planning it, and when I have been planning it, I've been trying to keep it where everyone's included. So we're going to be having events where it's not just accommodated to athletes. It's not just accommodated to specific degrees. It's accommodated to everybody as a whole. Because if you're left out and something's not accommodated to you, or you don't feel represented, are you going to speak up? No. And myself in my second year, I didn't feel accommodated and I didn't speak up. So I'm using this opportunity and applying for VP Student Life to represent the student body as a whole, not just as one, like individually, not just as a whole. I want everyone to be represented. Thank you.
Thank you. Brendan, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, of course. So breaking away from Preston and Montana's points, albeit fantastic points, I think it's really important above all to level with students. If you have prospective students, people interested potentially in looking into Nipissing, because an open house, you haven't made up your mind yet. You're looking at your options, you want to weigh them out. And I think that as a student representative, your responsibility is to the students prior to lining a university's pockets. You want to make sure that you hear what they need out of their experience with the university, what they want to see happen, and make sure that realistically we can give that to them. If that isn't always the case, then we just be honest about it. Otherwise, we explore options on how to make that happen. But I think showing them that you have their best interest in mind, as opposed to trying to sell them on something that might not be in their best interest, is probably one of the best ways to make that happen, in my opinion. When I was exploring university options, Nipissing actually wasn't my first option. So I had some places I wanted to go prior to this. And when I was speaking with representatives and going to open houses, basically the Nipissing representative broke it down for me to a level where I recognized that he actually cared about what I needed and that they were able to do that. The other universities didn't break it down with me like that. And that's a large part of the reason why I didn't go with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaya, would you like to answer the question?
Of course. I love this question so much. So when I went to one of the Ontario University fairs where I first learned about Nipissing. Before then, I had never heard about it. And this guy was talking about Nipissing, and he was just telling me about all of his experiences and how it's such a nice school because it's so small. So the ratio of students that you have to professors, you're able to build so many good connections. And I ended up going to the open house later on, and he was also there representing the little booth that he was at, and I got to talk to him again. And some of the major selling points for me was the fact that the school, including NUSU, is so open to new suggestions and ideas that they really care about the students that go. And because it's a small school, it's really easy for you to be able to accommodate everybody and take everybody's ideas under consideration. And so he mentioned that before, like when he was going to school, that we didn't even have an anthropology program, and that some students here were like, oh, we really want an anthropology program, and they're like, okay, and then they got it. And I was like, wow, that's so amazing that you were able to actually follow through with that and be able to create these new opportunities that people really want. And so I think that's a really cool thing that Nipissing has to offer. And I think that if we really focus on that and focusing on what people want to see, I think that people will really want to get involved with the school and come here.
Thank you. The next question is for Preston. So all executives ultimately answer to the board of directors. How will you ensure that you communicate with the board and make sure they are kept informed?
Yeah, that's a great question. In order to make sure everyone is informed, this is a tool I've had to deal with for the past 7-8 years in terms of my student recruitment job going back. Sorry to backtrack, but you're constantly getting emails. You're working as a team, you have group chats. Going to my other job I'm running at the same time right now, managing a clothing store, you have to talk to everybody. You can't just go ahead and do something on your own. You got to make sure everyone's informed, resources are properly distributed, and everyone's informed of what's going on. I believe working in a team is important because it makes sure everyone is accounted for. You're not just I've never been known to just make quick decisions like that. Everything I do is calm, it's cool, it's collected. It's the way I like to live my life. I'm never going to be too stressed out to take a position like this. Like I said, currently I'm working 50 hours a week between my 2 jobs while maintaining a 4.0 GPA and a great social life with amazing friends in our community. I believe these skills can transfer over, and I believe my time management can be impeccable to ensure that I'm always, no matter what, properly communicating to every single department, every person I'm working with, to make sure that no stone is uncovered or unlooked after, or etc. Thank you, Joe.
I'm muted. Sorry, everyone. Brendan, would you like to answer the question?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
For sure. So all executives ultimately answer to the board of directors. How will you ensure that you communicate with the board and make sure they are kept informed?
Awesome, thanks. So from my limited experience speaking to current representatives of NUSU, I know that, of course, there are regular meetings where you can sit there and communicate with people on that board, and you can listen to their pitches. You can bring your own thoughts and your own current projects or assignments or whatever to them, but also sit there and make sure that they know that it's a door that swings both ways and that they can do the same with you. I think that especially with things hopefully eventually opening up more, having a open door policy with executive offices and making sure that directors and senators know that if they are in the NUSU building, that at any point they can come and they can bring concerns or interests to me. And I think that that's an awesome opportunity to not only address what needs to get addressed, but also to build a relationship with people that also contribute to the organization. But then have people know that if they are working on doing things distance for the time being, because that is still a reality, that things like emails or social media or any other form of communication are also an open door policy. And that if they need to, they can absolutely reach out to me there. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaya, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, I would. I really like Brennan's answer. I agree completely with that. And just to expand on everything, I think just to make sure that you're really not leaving any information out and you're keeping everyone informed. I personally love to make lists of everything that I have to do, my thought processes. I would have everybody on the board written down just to make sure that I'm keeping everybody in the loop and keeping everybody updated with where I am on certain things. And I think that if you're able to come into the meetings and present all of your ideas and just make sure that you're hitting every single thing that you wanted to mention just to stay on top of things, that'll be like a really good strategy. And like Brennan said, for people that aren't able to come in person or if things are moved to online, you're doing online meetings, that just having like everything that you want and just keeping everybody updated and making updated lists for yourself just to do that, I think that would be a really good strategy for myself. And then that way I won't miss out on anything. Thank you.
Thank you. And Montana, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, of course. So, like everyone said, we actually do have monthly board meetings with our board of directors. Something we do is a board report. And so making sure those are as detailed as possible to make sure that they are aware of what you've been doing since the last board meeting, and communicating effectively. After each executive presents their board report, they also have the opportunity to ask any questions that the directors may have on anything within the report. We also recognize that sometimes that the directors are within the community and talking to students, and they hear things that we may not hear as executives. And so we have created a time for directors to be able to bring those concerns to us. And so just like everyone's saying, having that two-way street of open door policy and communicating with them. Sometimes there's an item that comes up and we have to have emergency board meetings, and then that's where we have to communicate with our board, like, this is something that has come up and this is on how we're going to tell you, and like just being as communicative as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Brendan. In the last couple of years, anti-racism and allyship have been brought to the forefront of priorities for many groups, including students. How will you help to amplify BIPOC voices and advocate for more representation and supports on and off campus?
Thanks, Joe. So absolutely, any degree of discrimination or prejudice is just disgusting and completely outdated. There's no room for that in our society on a large scale, but absolutely not as an organization. So I like that, especially through mediums like the New Sioux Talks Instagram page, that very regularly there are stories that promote awareness and programs to help marginalized groups, help people who would potentially be in need of extra support, or honestly, ultimately informing those who may not need that support, but who have people in their lives who could, and just working to educate everybody on it. I think that that is an awesome platform. I think maybe reaching out like what Preston mentioned much earlier on in this discussion, with reaching out to particular departments and attempting to run more events or more initiatives on a smaller scale so that everybody gets more one-on-one with this kind of awareness. I think that that could certainly help, but I definitely think that NUSU as a whole really hits the dot on that sort of thing already. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaya, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, I think that NUSU does do a really good job in promoting like acceptance and all that stuff. Like all the posts they have, I realize that a lot of people are constantly resharing the NUSU Talk stories on their Instagrams. And I feel like that's just such a nice thing that everybody does, because it makes you feel very like included in the community and that everybody really does care. As for events, I think that NUSU and Nipissing, I think that Oh, there were some events in first year. They were so fun that you got to go to with like the shows that they would have and all that stuff where you can actually go and watch like the performances. I think those were really fun too. And I think maybe if we are able to create maybe like anonymous things for people to check in if they have any concerns or if they want to talk about their experiences, just receiving that feedback and learning on how we can improve or if other people have suggestions too. I think that would be really amazing, just having establishing that connection with the students to see how they're feeling when they're actually the ones going into the schools and experiencing all this stuff with everyone. Everything.
Thank you. Montana, would you like to answer the question?
I would, but can you please repeat the question first?
Yep.
Thank you.
In the last couple of years, anti-racism and allyship have been brought to the forefront of priority for many groups, including students. How will you help to amplify BIPOC voices and advocate for more representation and supports on and off campus?
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So like everyone's been saying, NUSU does currently do a good job of amplifying student voices, but I know for myself personally, I want to be more than just a performative ally and just share things. You have to do the dirty work. You have to have those hard conversations. And part of that is going to things such as like anti-racism talks and how to be a better ally and what you as well as myself as a white person of what I can do better for the community. Like I've mentioned in previous conversations is that with this role, you do get a chance to sit down and have conversations with the university. And so really amplifying the voices that you've heard from students and like, this is a grievance that I've had. And so just amplifying that voice even more because this is what you've heard already. Doing stuff like that within the community, again, just amplifying voices. We actually have a few not activities, but things that are coming out with the anti-racism Shoot for Change event that is happening, I believe this Friday, that was done on by the New Base community. And just going to events like that and just amplifying those voices and having conversations and sitting down with them and saying, okay, we've done this, now let's see on how we can amplify your voice even more. Thank you.
Thank you. And Preston, would you like to answer the question?
Absolutely. Could you repeat the question one more time, though?
Yeah, for sure. So in the last couple of years, anti-racism and allyship have been brought to the forefront of priority for many groups, including students. How will you help to amplify BIPOC voices and advocate for more representation and supports on and off campus?
Absolutely. Great question. Personally, myself, I already personally have ties with different places like the Equity Center and the Indigenous Initiatives Office. I believe if issues like these are brought up to me, it would be no problem whatsoever to go into those offices and set up those connections and run those events through those people, as well as like our executives like advocacy and awareness. Personally, one thing that hasn't been mentioned by any of the candidates yet was outside of campus. Personally, me, I'm a North Bay local. My time as valedictorian of my high school had me run many different events in the community. And as such, I had to build connections with many places. I personally know a lot of people that run City Hall, a lot of people that run a lot of the courthouses, business owners. So I find if we have an event created for members of the LGBTQ plus or an underrepresented minority, I would have no problem setting it up. One thing to note, while I've been personally reaching out to as many students as I can, I've had a few students as part of the LGBTQ plus community reach out to me and say they feel underrepresented. So I've already talked to a few people about setting up some sort of parade downtown, which was already done a couple years ago. That was absolutely an amazing event. I believe I possess the skills and mindset to be able to do this because I will go out to the community and I will make sure something gets set up. I will use my connections that I already have to make sure something gets done because no voice should be left unturned. Every single part of the student body should always be accounted for no matter what. And I will make that my ultimate goal. I completely promise everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Kaya. So as an executive member of NUSU, you will likely be faced with the pressure and stress associated with your position. What are some of the ways that you would reduce your stress levels, ensure your overall well-being, and continue to deliver the best efforts in your position?
Yeah, well, stress is definitely always part of any job that you're going to have. It comes with everything. And so finding a good way that works for you to be able to cope with it is definitely super important. For me, if I tend to have crazy weeks where it just feels so overwhelming and I just feel like I'm just gonna start breaking down and I feel like I can't do it. For me, I find that it really helps if I just take a second, just take a step away from it all and just take a break, don't think about it, calm down, take a few deep breaths, and then come back to what you're working on with an open and clear mind. And then just really focus on the things that you have to do. So if I have a bunch of tasks, then I just break it down in order and I don't look at the like everything that I have to do. I just look at it one by one in order of what needs to be done so that it just doesn't seem as intimidating. And by doing that, I'm able to complete each task in order. And I feel like that has helped me a lot with dealing with stress because then it's not like you don't feel overwhelmed. You're just like, okay, this is what I have to do first. And the rest is just all going to fall into place and it'll work out. That's what's helped for me.
Thank you. Montana, would you like to answer the question?
Yes, most definitely. So being in this role currently, I understand the pressures of the job and the stresses that come along with it, which is sometimes a lot and it is overwhelming. Some things that I've learned to do are talk with my coworkers if they're available and if they can even take on the stress themselves. Because sometimes when you're unloading something onto them, it kind of they create that stress themselves. So just seeing if they're able to and really having that conversation like, okay, this is what I'm stressed out about. Are you able to help? If not, that's cool. And then just finding someone to really talk to and have that conversation with. Something else that I like to do when I'm at home is just finding ways to decompress, whether it be doing some self-care things like reading a book, doing a face mask, something that is just your brain's kind of turned off. You're not thinking of anything, you're just relaxing. That's something that is very important. And another thing is creating boundaries. I know that when I first started, I was saying yes to everything. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do this all right now. Yes, 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 yes. And you have to learn, okay, if it's not something that is direly important, it can wait till tomorrow. And doing it that way and creating those boundaries so that you're not just saying yes to everything and just putting a bunch of stress on yourself. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Preston, would you like to answer the question?
Absolutely. Personally, I'm going to take a flip side to what our candidates are saying. I go head on with whatever stress I deal with. Like I said before, I battle 50-hour work weeks with 4.0 GPAs. The way I personally do that is I fight stress with more stress, which it sounds really bad, but I personally don't get stressed. I find always doing something keeps my mind occupied. It keeps me busy. Personally, if I had this position, I would be working as much as I can. I know during the school year, you have a 20-hour work week. That's not how it is for me. I would go into my shifts, I would come back, and then I would work another 5-6 hours from home. That's what I do already. I know personally, I already have about a 10-page document with notes about this position and what I can do to improve, as well as things I've taken from my peers. So when I do get stressed, I personally take that as a challenge, and I find it super rewarding when I can combat that stress and use it to do something good, like advocate for every group in the school and make sure everybody's involved. When I have experienced stress at any point, you could just take a breather, you can talk to your friends, but I've personally always found that going head on with the stress has been great for me, and it's honestly cured any kind of stress related things I've had, any anxiety. I solve it by being the best person I can, being the best leader I can, the best representative, someone students will be proud to have represent them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brendan, would you like to answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. So much like Preston, before university, not so much since it began, but before university, I had to juggle a few different jobs simultaneously to be able to afford to come here. And that definitely took a high degree of time management, and it was something that I wasn't so great with beforehand. But I'm gonna actually loosely quote Lost here. They kind of taught me a strategy that I use to work with that. The very, very beginning of the show, Jack mentions that when he is scared or stressed as a surgeon, he gives the fear or the stress around 5 seconds to just completely take over. Okay, you let it, you've opened up yourself, you're gonna let it go and do whatever it has to do to you mentally, but now that's done. Now you've let it take over for a second, and now the only thing left to do is actually deal with it. And then you start working at it one by one. You go, okay, what can I reasonably get done? Well, also what do I need to prioritize most importantly first? And I think Kaya mentioned, I think it was Kaya that mentioned lists. So in my room, I always have a large whiteboard next to my desk and numbered in the list of importance, but also in a list of how easily can I accomplish it. And that's just how I tackle things one at a time. If I need to sit there for 5 seconds and let it take over, then absolutely. But then after that, it's showtime and we've got to take care of it, or else it's not going to get taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. So next up will be the questions from the audience. Questions are to be sent by students to info@nusu.com from only their student email. If someone sends in a question from another email, it will not be asked. Students, you have 2 minutes to send in your questions. Please put in your email who it is going to. For example, is it to one person, to a position, or to everyone? We will also now take a 2-minute break and come back at 7:55. Welcome back, everyone. So we'll start with the first question from the audience. What does professionalism mean to you? And we'll start with Brendan.
Thanks, Joe. So for me, I like to look at professionalism as a duty of care. So in a lot of professional areas of the world, you owe people, you owe constituents, you owe whoever you're representing a duty of care, and you've got to behave accordingly. So I think when it comes to something like NUSU, you have to some degree or another, leave certain parts of you at the door when you know that those don't comply with the degree of professionalism that students deserve. Whereas, in a different organization, in a different setting, that could be different. But I think it's important to just recognize, what does this particular event require? And how do we act accordingly? Kind of like, or if you're going for a job interview somewhere, you might not wear a tuxedo. You want to kind of weigh things out and look at, basically you want an equilibrium. Like, you want everything to be balanced, and I think it's important to follow policies and look at job descriptions and recognize what level, which I think very high level, but what level of professionalism a job like an executive position requires. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Kaya, would you like to go next?
Yes, I would. So for me, professionalism means that if you're going and you're going to make a promise to someone, you better follow through with it. You don't want to make promises and set dates to do things and then just not follow through and then leave people disappointed. I also think that it's really good to establish boundaries and respect other people's space and boundaries, and not making people feel uncomfortable. I think that in any working environment that you are in, you want to be able to have a very positive atmosphere where everybody is they feel free to share their ideas and communicate with each other and not have to feel uncomfortable. And if they do, you want them to be able to feel as though they can come to you with any problems or concerns that they may have, and you're able to respect them and do your best to either improve yourself or what you're working on. I think that's really important. Thanks.
Thank you. Montana?
Thank you. So I agree with both what Brendan and Kaya said. And to expand on it a little bit more, it's just even going both in the community and to like meetings with the university, knowing that you may disagree with some of the things that are being said, but ultimately you're representing the students, but you also are representing the university when you are in the community. So not only dressing accordingly to events, but also like speaking in a way that you're not being rude or disrespectful to other people. And even when you go into meetings with the university, again, not being disrespectful, but still making sure the voices are being heard. When you're having meetings with students, making sure that you're talking in a way that they understand as well, and not seeming condescending and stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Preston?
Myself, personally, professionalism is probably the most important thing someone in a high up position can have. Personally, myself, again, I keep going back to my skills that I've had and my experiences. Student recruitment. When I'm doing a campus tour with some moms and some parents, you know how they can get helicopter parents. I've had to deal with an abundance of parents that get mad at me where they say, or not mad, or they get a little bit miffed and they say, hey, why can't I go on residence? I wanted to see residence today. I love Nipissing residence. You have to be able to handle situations like that to a T and provide and respond in a great manner where you can de-escalate the situation to make sure it doesn't further escalate. And I've dealt with that same thing at managing a clothing store. I've personally been promoted to high positions and been promoted to high positions with my peers because I've had this manner of professionalism for everything. I've dealt with a lot of Karens at work, and you have to be able to talk with them and shut things down and be able to work with people. I believe you need to be able to work with every member of a community. Going back to student recruitment, I personally did this by, on my campus tours, I would work with all sorts of degrees. And you need to be able to be sophisticated. You need to be like sophisticated, educated, and professional. I know way too much about every single degree here at Nipissing because I believe being professional and educated is the forefront of absolutely every situation and would be help you out to make and create any event. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question is for all candidates once again, and we'll start with Montana. The question is, why did you not run for the executive election in January?
Honestly, I was not 100% sure of if I wanted to rerun for my position. And I was also scared that there's going to be so many people running for it. I love friendly competition and stuff like that, but when I did my first election, I was running by myself, so there wasn't that scaredness, but I was scared that I wouldn't be able to get back in because I was like, I love this position so much and it'll be an absolute heartbreak if I don't get back in. And now, even though there's someone running against me, I am a lot more confident because I spoke with my staff that all works at Newsy, and I'm like, guys, I'm unsure if I want to even rerun again. And they're like, no, you can do it. Like, you're doing such an amazing job. Even if you don't get in, there's different ways of you can still be involved. Like the by-elections for the director, I can still go a part of that as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Preston, would you like to go next?
Absolutely, you know it by now. For me personally, I didn't run just because I was constantly so busy. Like I've told myself before, I thrive on doing something every part of the day. You will never catch me sitting around being lazy, relaxing. I'm constantly moving. I'm constantly creating events in high school, representing my peers. If I'm not working at my other job or at my other job in the student recruitment center, I was personally just too busy to run for a position like this because, you know, doing so many things. I realized my full potential over these last 5-6 years, and I realized that a position like this is perfectly suited to me and the skills that I encompass and bring forth. I believe that you have to be, you know, sophisticated, educated again, and I just had to take a step back, realize that I am capable of doing anything, I believe. Always bet on yourself is what some of my friends tell me, and I'm doing that right now. I'm betting on myself. That's the whole reason why I didn't before was because I was too busy. I've already spoke with my other employers. If I were to get this position, I would immediately drop my other positions to make all the time in the world for everything that this job could encompass so I can properly represent everybody, which is my dream. It's my passion. I bleed this. I love making everybody happy and everyone feeling included, and everyone will see that if I am elected. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Brendan, would you like to answer?
Yeah, of course. So ultimately, I actually very heavily considered running in the original election, but I wasn't sure which direction my life was going. I wasn't sure if I would be at home, which I live pretty far away. I'm from the London area. I wasn't sure if I would be at home helping family. I wasn't sure if I would be seeking job opportunities for the summer in other places. My family are a bunch of firefighters, and I explored opportunities to go forest firefighting out west. Now, after weighing everything out and realizing that those directions weren't really feasible for me, and that I could actually commit to something like this to the extent that it deserves to be committed to, then I decided to run for it. I've wanted to run for it since the beginning, since when Harikesh ran, but I was just afraid that my schedule and timing and overall workload wasn't going to reflect what it deserved. But I think that now that my next year or so has shapen up a lot more and is a lot more clear to me, I think that I can give this job and this position everything that it deserves and ultimately be able to give these students everything that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kaya.
So when I was originally applying to Nipissing and the people were talking to me about the different roles that NUSU has to offer, I thought that it was going to be a super exciting role that I really wanted to participate in, but I was just a grade 12 student and I was like, yeah, this will be such a fun opportunity. And then I got to first year and I was like, well, I don't know if people would want like a first year running. And then things kind of just went by with second and third year. It was out of my mind. I wasn't thinking about it. And I honestly didn't know how it would work because having to stay here over the summer, I was always planning on just going home for it instead. And then I ended up recently getting a job that I would have to stay here in the summer for anyways. And when I looked into it more, I was like, oh, this is actually possible. And I started seeing the posts more that people were making about this opportunity. So I was like, well, you know what, this can actually work. If I run for this and if I get it, then I'll get rid of my other job and I'll take this one instead because it sounds really fun. And just from there, I've gotten super excited about it, just coming up with ideas and stuff. So yeah, I'm super happy about it. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll now move to closing remarks. The candidates will give closing remarks, which will be 2 minutes each. Brennan, you can go first.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like there was a question for Preston and Kai in the chat. I don't know if that is acceptable, but there is one in there for them.
Yeah,
There you
that was just from Joe. So we're gonna, for time constraints, we're just gonna move on for the 2 minutes.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Brennan, you can give your closing remarks first.
Perfect, thanks. So I would like to start this off by saying I think everyone has done an absolutely fantastic job. I think that we've had a lot of insightful conversations here and a lot of really good points were made. And I think no matter what, whoever gets it can build upon all of this and do a really good job. I think that Montana is absolutely experienced and would be a really good candidate for this position. I, of course, think that I would be as well. I think that my unique perspectives and experiences and a lot of my life goals have kind of shaped me in a unique way where I can help students accordingly and be motivated to do that. Going back to what I said at the very beginning, I am very, very motivated to help students who are in similar positions that I was in. And that's not to say that I'm not equally as motivated to help out every other student, but I think that that's a really good starting point. And I think that if everyone knows that there's that safety net and there's people there with their best interests in mind, that's a really good starting point. I think ultimately everybody needs to vote for whoever has their best interests in mind. And if that ends up being Montana, I think she will do a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you. Kaya, would you like to give your closing remarks?
Yes, I am so excited about this job. I want to do the best that I can do, and I'm so ready to just hear as much feedback as possible. I've already received some DMs about new ideas and suggestions, and I think that they're really great, and I really want to take them all into consideration. I feel like I can do a really good job at this role because once I have my mind set about something, I'm determined to achieve it, and I just think that this is such an amazing opportunity. Like, I don't just see this as a job. I want to truly be in this position so that I can create the best experience for all Nipissing students and have something that people are excited and something that people can really look forward to when they come back to campus. My platform is all about just being able to redo everything that we lost. I want to hold an upper year frosh for the second and third years that originally missed it, and even all the upper years like fourth and fifth year. I think that would be so cool for everybody to be able to go back and meet new people that they otherwise couldn't have, and make new friends and be able to make those new connections and relationships. And yeah, I am just so excited about this. And I hope that everybody likes my ideas, and I will do everything I can to take everything into consideration. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Montana.
Well, first, I wanted to thank everyone for both coming out today and even just putting your name forward for any position that you're applying for. It does take a lot of strength to be able to do this and courage. I think each of us has a different opportunity and strength and position and different perspective of what they want to do with each of the role that we are applying to. And like Brandon was saying, whether it be me or him, I think both of us would be amazing in this role and find different ways to be able to advocate for our students. I think any and all of us with all our different unique experiences are going to find ways to advocate for our students and be presenting with what is going to be best with our students. I know for myself, my past experiences and my life experiences have what driven me to be a better advocate for students and people who have either had the same similar life experiences as me or even different ones. Just helping anyone the best way I can is something that is very important for me, and just being very driven and just passionate. I am hoping that you guys will be able to re-elect me in this position, and thank you.
Thank you. And Preston.
Thank you. I just want to say a vote for me isn't a vote for me. It's a vote for yourself. It's a vote for your neighbor. It's a vote for your classmates, your TAs, everybody, because I will promise I will always represent everybody. I believe I possess the skill sets socially, academically, and in a professional manner that rubs off on everybody. I believe throughout my life, I've proven I've always been a great leader who strives to go to the top. And that will be proven if I am elected. If I am not elected, because Kaya is a wonderful candidate who had many great ideas, I'm not giving up still. I will still be in the school. I will still be trying to plan things. I will still be probably personally messaging Kaya to say, hey, put this into effect. I know I want to personally have things like student wars where you pit grades against each other. I've heard from the many people I've talked to in Nipissing community, Michaela specifically, she wants a winter festival, and Daniel wants a talent show. So that could be things that I could add. I believe by focusing on the micro level of students, I believe you're really getting a say for everyone. I believe that everyone, no matter who you are is equal. I don't care if you're my best friend, you're not going over this random person who just DM'd me. Truly, everybody in my heart means everything to me, and I will put everything I can into this position. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone who's come out today and supported me. I appreciate anyone who has contacted me. I've reached out to anyone who shared my posts. Everyone truly means the world to me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is the end of our debate. Thank you to everyone who attended and watched online. Just a reminder that you can vote through your student email from Thursday, March 10th until Friday, March 11th. Please make sure to go to newsu.com/elections to find out more information about how you should vote. Please be reminded that if you're looking to run as president, director at large, arts and science student senator, or graduate student senator, the packages are due 9 a.m. on Friday, March 11th. If you have any questions or concerns, you can also email elections@newsu.com. On behalf of NewSU, have a good night, everyone.